So the question is, what will the Republicans do with immigration this week? Namely, will the Republicans surrender on amnesty? To talk about this and all things immigration, joined by Art Arthur with the Center for Immigration Studies. Art, thank you for joining us. We've got 2 days left in the week. The Republicans have been planning on a couple of immigration votes. What do you see happening?
Well, right now it appears that there's a bit of disorder as it relates to the whipping of the votes. So I'm not 100% sure that either of these bills is going to receive the 218 votes that it needs to be passed over to the other body.
Do you expect votes, Art? Do you expect these two bills still voted on this week in the House?
Yeah, there's nothing that would indicate to me that we're not going to see a vote this week, but I don't necessarily know that there's going to be, that either one of them is going to pass. I think that the Republicans want to put bills on the floor. I think that they want to, have people actually indicate how they want to vote. But whether or not either of them has enough support to pass or even has any Democratic support at all is a different question.
Hey, Art, where are the, I've been trying to nail this down, and the polling's kind of all over the map. Where are the American people on this notion of a wall? Gallup did a poll yesterday. Again, I have a problem with the wording of the poll, but 57-41 against the wall. Back in 2016, another poll with suspect wording that showed a majority against the wall. But then you go all the way back to 2006, a more straight up question that CNN did, and there was a slight majority for the wall. Where do you think the American people are on the wall?
Well, I was actually on the floor of the House as we voted for the Secure Fence Act of 2006, and I can tell you right now that it was a very popular measure that garnered a lot of Democratic support. As you know, when it comes to immigration, push polling is really key. Whenever anybody tells you that X or Y is supported by a majority of the American people, you need to look suspectly toward whatever the questioning was that was asked. In this particular instance, I think that the American people want barriers where barriers are needed. I don't think that they necessarily want a 30-foot tall wall running all 1,956 miles to the southwest border. But I do think that they do want to see barriers that will stop individuals from coming to the United States where there are no natural barriers.
The executive order today, Art, that the president signed, do you still expect Congress possibly this week to at least take up that aspect of maybe even a narrow piece of legislation, changing the law on what's going on the border with kids and adults?
Well, really the only part of the law that needs to be changed is the Flores settlement agreement, or legislation to fix the Flores settlement agreement. As you know, under Flores, there's a presumption that alien minors, accompanied minors and unaccompanied minors, will be released from custody within 20 days of their detention and handed over to HHS to eventually make their way to relatives here in the United States, basically to allow them to be released into the United States. And that's an issue because that brings a lot of unaccompanied alien children. It also brings a lot of families with children because they know that people don't like the optics of seeing families detained and children released or children being taken away from families. So it's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. If we want to have family unification, if we want to have family units in together, there are one or two things we can do. Either they can enter through the ports of entry, in which case they'd be detained and processed, and we could figure out what to do with them then. Or alternatively, if they enter illegally, we need to be able to detain them in a family setting so that we can make our way through their asylum claims, determine which asylum claims are good, let those people into the United States. If they don't have good asylum claims, turn them around and send them back home.
Yeah, Art, I think there's such a disconnect there with so many Republican and conservative grassroots voters. These folks who want to claim asylum, why aren't they all just sent to the ports of entry? Why does anybody who enters the country illegally, why are they automatically detained here? Why don't we, I hear this over and over on the radio and on TV, why don't we just send them to the ports of entry?
Well, Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, if you're apprehended entering the United States illegally and you make a request for asylum, you have to be processed for credible fear. Back in 1996, when this law was passed, this was the exception of the rule, but more and more it's becoming the rule for individuals who are apprehended along the southwest border. We've seen the number of credible fear claims skyrocket. We've also seen the number of women and children increase. Used to be back in 2011 that 90% of all the aliens entering the United States were single adult males. Now, 40% of them are women and children. Many of them are making these claims. I think that Attorney General Jeff Sessions, in matter of AB, a decision he issued himself just last week, is going to definitely cut into those claims and will allow asylum officers to deny more of those credible fear claims. But at the present time, asylum officers grant anywhere between 75 and 90% of all credible fear claims that they hear. Those cases go to the immigration court, and eventually those people end up getting released into the United States for hearings that may be years and years from now.
It's going to be an interesting couple days. Art, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody, I'm not exaggerating, everybody on MSNBC was crying last night. Coming up.